Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Barbara Kane, and I'm a licensed spiritual practitioner with the Centers for Spiritual Living, and we're here for our morning meditation. And today I'm doing a reading from 365 Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. And what I'll do is I'll do a reading, and then we'll have about 15 minutes of silent meditation. And then I'll do another reading to close out the meditation, and then invite you to join us for our regular service, which will start at 10:15. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give ye the desires of thine heart. We do not change all of the patterns of our thought in a moment. Rather, it takes place little by little until gradually the old thought patterns become transformed into new ones by some inner alchemy of the mind, the operation of which we do not see, but the manifestations of which we do experience. I know that all the good there is belongs to me. God is good. Good is God. I am surrounded by good. I am enveloped in it. I feel its presence. There is nothing in me that can reject that good. My whole inner feeling entertains it and experiences it. My whole expectation is one of joy and pleasurable anticipation. All the old thoughts of fear and doubt and uncertainty have vanished. Within me is the secret place of the Most High. Within me is the presence and the power and the will to know and do and be. And now I invite you to take a deep breath and just relax where you are in your chair. Close your eyes and let the meditation music take you to that soft, quiet place. eyes. And to just revisit, within me is the secret place of the Most High. Within me is the presence and the power and the will to know and to do and to be. There is nothing in me that can deny this statement or refuse to accept it. There is nothing in me that can limit me. My memory is one of happiness, my anticipation one of joy, my experience is one of pleasure. And so it is. And so I invite you all to join us for our regular service at 10:15. Have a beautiful day. See you soon.
at 4 Points by Sheridan, or have invited us into your homes through the power of live streaming. Thank you so very much for including us in your day. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dusty Rippelmeyer, and I have the privilege and the honor of being this community's spiritual director. We are part of a larger organization called Centers for Spiritual Living. And Centers for Spiritual Living believe that there is one power and presence that is back of everything that there is, seen and unseen, that creative energy that has created everything. It is the very essence of peace and joy, freedom, love, abundance, wisdom, all things good. And we are its ambassadors. We are its divine emanations. We are its individualized expressions here on the planet. Right where we are, God is in its wholeness and in its fullness. There is no spot where God is not. And we are here today to really celebrate that fact. We're here today to remind each other who we really are, and that power and presence that we can lean into. Because if we were created in its image and likeness, and God is creative, then we too have that ability to create. And in fact, we do every moment of every day. We are creating. We're creating the experiences of our lives. And so for me, that's the good news. If I don't like the experience I'm having, then I can change it. I have the power to change my thoughts, change my beliefs, which then change my actions and change the world around me. And so we support each other as we do that. And so I'm so very glad that you have come to join us here today, or are with us through the power of live streaming. Because in community, everything is better. Everything is more fun. Everything is deeper. Everything is more expanded whenever two or more are gathered. Somebody stop me. It's all perfect. It's all good. It's all wonderful. I would like to take a moment to thank Barbara Kane for her beautiful meditation that created this space and the container for our service to unfold within. And now please welcome her back to the podium. Barbara Kane, licensed spiritual practitioner.
Good morning, everyone. The theme for this year, 2023, is Living Out Loud. Rebecca. Our theme for the month of June is Embracing Self-Care. Reverend Dusty's talk title is Balancing Grief and Joy. I'm now going to read this community's purpose statement. This is our reason for being here. Our purpose is to inspire, educate, and empower individuals to experience themselves as unique and individualized expressions of God, the love intelligence that governs the universe. We are committed to not merely a theoretical understanding of our oneness and unity with God, but to consciously practice this truth in our everyday lives. Through celebration, service, study, and fellowship, we are committed to the transformation of our personal lives and to being a powerful and beneficial presence on the planet. With the energy of unconditional love, simply, we are here for God. And now I invite everyone to close their eyes and turn within and open your heart and mind and allow the healing sounds of the crystal bowls to simply wash over you. now to bring your attention back into the room, into your bodies. And we are going to do the blessings of all faiths. So I invite Amy and Martin to come up and help me with this for their first time helping with this ceremony. The, the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living honors the diversity and threads of truth that run through all spiritual paths as represented by this ceremony. Christianity is the path of Christ consciousness, love, and forgiveness. Buddhism is the path of compassion and understanding. Judaism is the ethical path of living by sacred law. Baha'i is the path of unity and peace. Islam is the path of submission to the will of God, the highest calling. Confucianism is the path of deliberate tradition. Taoism is the natural way, the path of ultimate reality. Native American practice and shamanic traditions are the paths of primal spirituality. Shintoism is the path of tribal ancestry. Hinduism is the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. Science of mind and spirit is the path of the divine principle of love and law. And the heart represents the one heart, the one love that resides at the center of all people and all beings everywhere with no exceptions. May peace prevail on earth through the followers of all paths. And so it is. Thank you, Amy and Martin. And now I invite you to turn within for a moment while I bless the service. And in this moment of joy, I recognize that there's one infinite light, one love, one intelligence that is in, as, and through each of us. And I choose to call it God. It is known by many names. And this magnificent spirit of love, of life, of joy is exemplified through this community, through its love, through its joy. And so I speak a blessing on our community and on this service today, knowing that we are lifted and loved and that we expand our consciousness through what we learn and what opens up for us today. And I speak a blessing on Reverend Dusty as she brings her wonderful consciousness to bear, as she allows herself to be the vessel of spirit speaking through her, and as she experiences a wonderful moment of joy and of expansion for herself as well. And I speak a blessing on Cindy Johnson as she brings her beautiful gift of song that lifts us and brings joy to us. And I speak a blessing on Heather Abbott, the foundation stone for the church at the moment. I am so grateful for all that Heather does, the AV, the setup, and being the right hand to Reverend Dusty. And I speak a blessing on all the volunteers, those that I may know, the names of those that I may not, who have provided service to make this wonderful experience of learning and light for all of us. And so I'm thankful for this wonderful service that lifts us, and so it is. The reading for today is from Khalil Gibran. He says, "The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain." And now it is my privilege and pleasure to introduce our wonderful in-house musician, Cindy Johnson.
natural to wonder what celestial rule did I break when things go right. It's logical to ponder what credit can I take, but the truth is so much easier. I don't need a master plan. I can live here in this moment, 'cause my life is in good hands. I don't need to know where the wind blows, 'cause God knows. I don't need to know what the future holds, 'cause God knows. I need never know how pain ends, how my heart mends. I can just let go, 'cause God knows. But still I find I'm crying out for answers. Yes, I'm still craving control. And still I find I'm afraid of taking chances, as if I could damage my soul. But at this moment I remember, it comes so clear to me, that the moment I surrender, I'm as safe as I can be. I don't need to know where the time goes, 'cause God knows. I don't need to know what the future holds, 'cause God knows. I need never know how pain ends, how my heart mends. I can just let go, 'cause God knows. I need never know how pain ends, how my heart mends. I can just let go. I can just let go. I can just let go, 'cause God knows. God knows.
Cindy, that was awesome. I love the way the divine works through you. It's absolutely beautiful. Good choice. Good, beautiful voice. Lovely rendition. Thank you so very much. So today we're continuing our conversation about the importance of self-care, embracing self-care. My talk today is balancing grief and joy. And I believe that in order to have this conversation, we have to take a moment to actually define these two words so that we're all kind of on the same page, right? So, what do we mean when we say grief? What do we mean when we say joy? Now, I think that most of us would be pretty much in alignment when we talk about the definition of the word grief. Grief is a natural response to loss. Any loss may trigger grief. So, the death of a loved one, a divorce, or a relationship breakup could be a diagnosis or losing our job, loss of financial stability, a miscarriage, retirement, death of a pet, loss of a cherished dream, or perhaps of a beloved friendship that we've had for years, or the loss of feeling safe after experiencing a traumatic event, to name just a few of the things that could, really create grief in our lives. Now, grief is an unavoidable emotion. It's an unavoidable emotion that we all go through at some point in time in our lives, and often it can feel overwhelming. Overwhelming. Grief itself is neither good or bad. It's just an emotion that must be attended to when we feel it in order to not engage in spiritual bypass. We experience all kinds of different and difficult emotions when we're in the middle of grief. And some of those could range from shock to disbelief to anger to guilt to low self esteem to regrets to confusion or perhaps just profound sadness. Now, the pain of grief can also disrupt our physical health, making it difficult to eat or to sleep or to even think straight. These are all normal reactions to loss. Now, for me, the most controversial, perhaps, conversation that we're going to have this morning is around the definition of joy. Many people believe that it is synonymous with happiness. Now, for me, that's not the case. Some of us might assume that having happy feelings means that we have joy, or that the lack of happy feelings means that we don't have joy. And once again, for me, that is not the case. Happiness is often seen as dependent on our external circumstances. But on the other hand, joy is not dependent on them at all. It is not even really about how we feel. Joy is something much deeper, infinitely richer, more stable, and definitely more accessible than we might otherwise think. For me, joy is an aspect of God, a God quality that we arrived on the planet with. Since we were created by God, out of God's stuff, in its image and likeness, then joy is right where we are all of the time. We can never be separate from our joy. It is who we are at our very core. For me, joy is a choice. The level of joy that we experience is completely and totally up to us. At the end of any given day, the amount of joy that we experience is exactly the amount of joy that we choose to experience. Take a breath. I told you this might be a little bit controversial. Take a breath, stay with me. Ushers, lock the doors. Just kidding. The ultimate source of all joy is God itself, and it is within us. Not in the people, not in the places, not in the possessions, not in the positions that we have in the external world of form. As with all other God qualities, joy is an inside job. To find the joy within, we must look within. To find the joy within, we must be willing to let go of the things that undermine our joy. To find the joy within, we must be willing to do the inner work to become aware of our negative tendencies or of our emotional reactivity or of our inability to really truly appreciate, be grateful for, and utilize the resources that exist within us. Joy is within us all of the time. It is an inside job. Now, our human lives on the planet are filled with all kinds of experiences, right? Many of these we would consider some of life's sweetest moments, when all is right with the world and all of our fondest hopes and our wildest dreams just seem to fall into place. And then there's other moments when nothing seems to go our way, when everything that could go wrong does go wrong, and all of our fondest hopes and our wildest dreams appear shattered. These are the moments when our heart aches with grief so intensely, so powerfully, that it threatens to take us to our knees. Sometimes it feels as though life comes in waves. Often there's a wave of what we would call good or pleasant circumstances, and then it's followed almost immediately by a wave of what we might consider bad or unpleasant circumstances. We might experience life as a series of hills and valleys. Sometimes we're up, and sometimes we're down. Joy and grief are two experiences that seem really kind of exactly the opposite of each other. And because of that, coexisting with these two emotions within us would seem nearly impossible. The bottom line, however, is that in the trying times when grief abounds, there might be a spark of joy. There might be a spark of joy, even though it might not last very long, and even though it might be impossible to experience it, that it can and does happen when we open our hearts to listen for it. When we open our hearts to be with it, when we open our hearts to care for it and to love it. Not an easy task, but not impossible, because joy is a God quality and it lives within us. The invitation is to align ourselves with the truth of who we really are, knowing that all of those qualities are always there and always available to be expressed through us. Through us. Grief, on the other hand, is the other side of joy. When we're able to look it straight in the face, it can be the messenger that we have been waiting for, the messenger that we have been needing to catapult us into the next level of our greater yet to be. The most important activity for each of us to do while grieving is to be with it. Just be with it. We're encouraged not to push it away or to ignore it or to pretend it isn't there by getting ourselves so busy that we have no time to discover what it's trying to tell us. It's trying to tell us something. As time passes and we move through our grief, we begin to heal. And gradually, we are able to return back to center. We've swung away from the center and we gradually can make our way back to center, although we will remain forever changed by that experience. Grief can be an opportunity for growth, but in order for growth to happen, we have to be able to get back to center so that we are able to look back on the event, understand our experience, and be able to move forward powerfully. Otherwise, we get stuck. If we can't find our way back to center, we get stuck in that grief. Becoming aware of the gift behind the grief will assist us to be able to get back to center. Choosing joy isn't always easy. The concept of enjoying life in a way can be challenging, especially when we're in the midst of the experience of grief. Balancing even the thought of joy with grief can seem impossible. It's like we're kind of drawn into this binary view of the world, and not allowing ourselves to feel joy in any way when we're in the middle of that experience of sadness or pain. We tend to make it an either or situation. And we can find ourselves saying, I can feel joy or I can feel grief, but I can't feel both at the same time. It can feel like a terrible tension within us and a betrayal of our pain if we were to allow ourselves to feel even a little teeny bit of joy. And feeling joy or lighter feeling can somehow feel like a betrayal of a particular person that you may have lost, a particular loved one and their memory. It could feel like a betrayal. It's as if we feel we need to stay in a certain emotional state to honor that person. But if we were to ask them, they wouldn't want us to stay in that state. When we do that, we deny ourselves positive feelings and positive experiences that can actually assist us to really be able to return back to center from those moments of deep grief. Over time, this can set in and become habitual. Over time, this can set in and become the context from which we live our life. The invitation today is to really know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it is okay. It is okay to feel the joy that is within us. It was put there for a reason. To feel that joy at the same time that we might be feeling immense pain. It's okay. Danielle Laporte, in her book White Hot Truth, says consciousness is not an either or equation. It's about bothness. The capacity to expand into bothness, the awareness of your joy in all circumstances, is so much of what it means to evolve. This means that it's possible to grieve with your whole heart and still sense your joy. You can feel rage and be aware of the joy that is waiting patiently for you to return and to take deep comfort in that. In an article called How I Learned to Find Joy During Times of Grief, the author Marissa Renee Lee talks about her mother and herself. And I feel that in her words, she really perfectly describes this idea of bothness. She says, for my 25th birthday, I wore a tiara and a strapless green dress that Blair had recently worn on the TV show Gossip Girl. For dinner, I ate all of my favorite Italian dishes, surrounded by my best girlfriends in a small private room on the Lower East Side with The Godfather, obviously the greatest movie of all time, streaming on the wall in the background. After dinner, we danced and flirted with boys and had too many vodka sodas at our favorite spot in Nolita. Everything about that birthday celebration perfectly encapsulated who I was at the time, carefree New York City girl who loves her friends, Italian food, cute boys, and a good cocktail. The next day also perfectly captured who I was back then, a grieving child whose mother had decided the week prior to stop receiving treatment for the cancer that had most recently camped out comfortably in her brain. The cancer had so weakened her immune system that she spent the month prior battling tuberculosis. The cancer that we all knew was ultimately going to take her life. The next morning, we all cheerfully hopped on a train headed north so that I could be with my mother for my last birthday with her. We spent the day together in her hospital room while I signed on her healthcare proxy forms and ensured, alongside my father, that all of her affairs were in order. Then we went and ate more Italian food. I've come to realize in the many motherless birthdays following that day that I learned how to hold grief and joy simultaneously, how to laugh and cry in the same 24-hour period and sometimes at the same time, from my mom. In addition to the stage 4 breast cancer that she battled for nearly 3 years. She also had muscular sclerosis for 12 years. During more than a decade of serious illness, unfathomable pain, hospital stays, chemotherapy, and wheelchairs, she had a blast. And I took the F word out of that line. She had a blast. She traveled as much as she could and as much as we could afford her to. She always had her nails done. She hosted and let me host a laundry list of parties, big and small. And most distinctively, she was always smiling and always taking care of others. She was always honest about her pain and her health. And while her poor health did sometimes stop her in her tracks, she was always so good at cultivating joy that even when she was once again in a hospital bed, she could still find something to smile about or someone to befriend. The invitation today is really to be willing, even if you need to be willing to entertain the idea that we are capable of sitting in the paradox, of not only experiencing both grief and joy, but to be able to balance them in trying times. It's important to know that we must tame our thought processes. And by becoming more aware of what we are thinking about, when the pain is felt more deeply than the joy that is within us. It is equally important to recognize that the loss that we grieve can be the opportunity to gain or to experience something new or something better or something greater. It's imperative for each of us to know how to navigate between these emotions at a time when our mind is so filled with grief. Letting joy overwhelm the mind every once in a while is really healthy for our overall health and for our ability to really be able to balance the two emotions. Two practical ideas for us to be able to navigate these two emotions, and the first is perspective. Perspective. A healthy perspective is the foundation of joy, because the way that we see the world is the way that we experience the world. Let me say that again. The way that we see the world is the way that we experience the world. Changing the way that we see the world in turn changes the way that we feel and the way that we act, and thereby changes the world itself. The invitation is to look at the events of our lives from a wider perspective. When we look from one angle, we may feel bad, but when we look from a wider angle, we're able to reframe the event in a more positive light. We're free to see new opportunities or to reduce our sense of fear or worry or anxiety and to experience greater joy in that moment. While changing our emotions can be hard, changing our perspective can be relatively easy. I'll say that again too. Changing our emotions can be hard, but changing our perspective can be relatively easy because we have dominion over our minds. We have dominion over our thoughts. We can change our thoughts. They do not rule us. We have dominion over them. It is not looking through rose-colored glasses or being a Pollyanna, but recognizing that what we think is reality is only part of the picture. The second idea is acceptance. Bring this up for Amy again. Acceptance is the ability to accept all of our life with all of its pain, all of its imperfection, and yes, all of its beauty. While we might think differently, acceptance is the opposite of resignation and defeat. Desmond Tutu says we are meant to live in joy. This does not mean that our life will be easy or painless. It means that we can turn our faces to the wind and accept this is the storm we must pass through. We cannot succeed by denying what exists. The acceptance of reality is the only place from which change can begin. Acceptance allows us to move more fully into the fullness of joy. It allows us to be in the flow of life, in the present moment, and engaged in life, with life, in such a way that we are not resisting it or we're not railing against it simply because it's not what we want it to be. I mean, that happens a lot. Acceptance is not a passive way to live our lives, but a very powerful way to live it. The invitation is to see life accurately, beyond all of the expectations and the projections and the judgments and the criticisms and the distortions that we typically bring to life. When we're able to bring acceptance into our lives, we cut through all of that resistance and we are able to relax and feel the joy that is our birthright. When we accept what is happening right now, we can be curious about what is happening next. Not worried about it, not fearful around it, not uncertain because of the uncertainty, but excited about it. Bring it on. I'm curious what is going to happen next. If we're experiencing grief, we are encouraged to allow ourselves to feel it in its fullness. However, every time we feel grief, it's important to give joy just a little bit of space in our awareness, just a little teeny slice of that pie that is our awareness. This keeps us in a reasonable balance. Just that little tiny bit. The key lies in asking, how do I approach it, this experience that I'm going through? How and what do I think about it? And can I see the good in it regardless of the situation, regardless of the grief or the pain that I might be feeling? To embrace self-care in trying times, it is imperative to know how to surf through the wave of grief to joy. We're encouraged to remember that every single one of us is a perfect spiritual being going through a trying phase in our life, a trying moment. Grief doesn't make us imperfect. Rather, the trying times serve as opportunities for growth. The invitation is to find refuge in our spiritual practices, find professional assistance when it's needed, and to really connect more intimately with our spiritual communities. The good news is that as a spiritual being having a human experience, we have the ability already within us to think and to create. To think and to create. And with these abilities, we can lean into joy. We can lean into joy even when it seems absent. We have the power to do so, even in the midst of grief. And so it is. And so it is. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I invite everyone to turn within for a word of prayer. As I close my outer eyes and turn away from the world of form, it is easy to remember that I'm leaving that which is not the truth and turning my attention toward the truth, toward the spiritual side of life, to that core of my being, to that center, to that spark of the divine that is always within me. I know that I am one with it, that I can never be separate from it, that wherever I am, God is in its fullness and in its wholeness. And just as I know that this is my truth, I know that it is the truth for each and every person here today, everyone that will watch this at some later point in time. all sentient beings on the planet. And it's from that place of unity that I really bless each and every single one of us, knowing that we have everything within us to live lives that we absolutely love to live. That we are spiritual beings having this human incarnation that sometimes feels like a lot of hills and valleys, that sometimes feels like a lot of waves that come and go, some that I would call good and uplifting, and others maybe not so good. But knowing that, like the tide, it comes in and it goes out, and that this too shall pass, and that we have everything that we need within us to ride those waves. To remember that who we are at our very core, and to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the joy that we are looking for is already in us. That it is not dependent on anything outside of us, not our friendships or our possessions or our positions or anything. That it already lives inside of us, and all we need to do is to turn to it, to align ourselves with it, and that we can bring it up even for the briefest of moments in the middle of our grief, and that it is absolutely okay to do so. There is no one on the planet, or no one that has already made their transition, that would ever ask us to not feel that joy, that would ever ask us to stay remaining in deep pain and grief just because. And so I know that we have that ability within us, and I claim ease and grace for each of us around doing that, to, yes, feeling the grief when it is there and it is present, but yet also allowing a little sliver of that joy to shine through, to be like the cloud peeking, or the sun peeking out from behind the cloud, and letting that too be a part of our awareness. This is what we can do through acceptance, through a different, wider perspective. We can hold both. It's okay to hold both. And I'm so grateful to know this truth and to speak these words. So grateful for the power of prayer, knowing that these words are loosed into a law that only ever says yes. That my words are clothed in form even as they are spoken. And so I speak them and I release them. With love and gratitude, letting God be God. And I invite each of us to anchor this prayer for ourselves, for each other, for our community, and for the world, simply by saying, and so it is. And so it is. Amen. Thank you all so very much. It's now time for our conscious giving. The Triangle Center for Spiritual Living is sustained by the giving of our time, talent, and treasure. And now is the time every week that we offer financial support for this community to continue to be a beacon of light and warmth and grace and love in the greater Triangle area. Together we affirm that today's truth, that today's offering offers lifts this spiritual community. It raises the one that is giving, and it adds to the energy of sufficiency on the planet. So there are several ways that you can give. Visit our website at www.trianglecs.csl.org. Text the word give using the following number, 919-230-8445, or you can mail your gift to our office at PO Box 4062, Cary, North Carolina, 27519. And so now I invite you, whether you're here at home, to place your hand on your heart with your gift or an intention, and we'll say our offering affirmation in a call and response. I live in an abundant universe that blesses and prospers my life. I give with gratitude, knowing that God is my source. And so it is. And so it is. As the baskets are being passed, please welcome the wonderful talented and beautiful Cindy Johnson back to her piano.
All the sorrow that you know will melt away. And then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you'll finally see the truth that a hero lies in you. It's a long road when you face the world alone. No one reaches out their hand for you to hold. You can find love if you search within yourself, and that emptiness you felt will disappear. Then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you'll finally see the truth that a hero lies in you. That a hero lies in you.
Thank you, Cindy. I really love that song, and that was a beautiful rendition. Thank you. And it reminds me of something I read one time about, people don't go to church as much as they used to. They go to the movies or they watch television. And so God will find us wherever we are, as an example of the song. Okay. If anyone would like prayer, please go to our website at trianglecsl.org. On the homepage, there's a button in the upper right hand corner. Click on that button and fill in the request form. We will get that prayer and send it out to all the ministers and practitioners. If anyone would like to dedicate a flower dedication to anyone for anything, please contact Heather Abbott at info@trianglecsl.org or Reverend Dusty at dustyrippelmeyer@yahoo.com. And we have an upcoming final community visioning event. For those of you unfamiliar with visioning, in this spiritual practice, we turn down the volume of our small individual minds to receive the revelations of the spiritual wisdom of our higher selves. For the community visions, we tap into the higher wisdom of our individual and collective consciousness around our spiritual community, the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. On Sunday, June 18th, we are asking for approximately 20 minutes of your time immediately following the service to facilitate a community visioning. Please consider joining us for our final visioning sessions and add your divine insight to the whole as we move forward into God's highest idea of the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. And for those of you that attended the first leadership training, this is a reminder that the final workshop will be Sunday, June 25th from 12 to 4 here at Four Points. And now, in the comfort of your home or here, please stand and join us for our June affirmation. This is a call and response. Please repeat it with meaning. Self care is an integral part of my human experience.
Self care is an integral part of my human experience.
I know that my evolution depends on my commitment to it.
I know that my evolution depends on my commitment to it.
I embrace it as a daily practice in order to live my life to the fullest.
I embrace it as a daily practice in order to live my life to the fullest.
I mindfully fill my cup to support myself and everyone else in my life.
I mindfully fill my cup to support myself and everyone else in my life.
Self care invites me to learn how to surf through the waves of grief to joy.
Self care invites me to learn how to surf through the waves of grief to joy.
Joy is a God quality that I arrived on the planet with.
Joy is a God quality that I arrived on the planet with.
I have the ability to hold it even in the midst of grief and uncertainty.
I have the ability to hold it even in the midst of grief and uncertainty.
Today I choose to embrace joy and allow a wave of peace to wash over me, and so it is.
Today I choose to embrace joy and allow a wave of peace to wash over me. And so it is.
And now I invite everyone to close their eyes one more time as I do a benediction. And here we are in a moment of joy, in a moment of expansion, in a moment of light and love. And this is something that we carry within ourselves here in this moment and going forward into our lives. And as everything in this service referenced, we have joy within us, for it is a God quality. And that joy splashes out into our lives in every moment and lifts us and expands our consciousness to embrace even more joy now and going forward. And so, with gratitude, I release this word, knowing that everything is in divine right order, and so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Babs. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, everyone here. Thank you, everybody, for inviting us into your home. Have an amazing week. I love you all madly. Bye.